Welcome to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. Today we have my friend Michael Park, and Michael has harvested 51 elk with his bow and arrow, and hopefully here shortly, about another month, be number 52. Michael, how you doing?
Pretty good, Jay. How you doing?
Good. I want to talk to you today about elk season. I know you're always in the mix somewhere stirring it up. I know you've had some things going on with work and some promotions and what have you, and been working really hard. So elk hunting probably has taken a little bit of a back burner because of your time frame. But what hunts do you have going on this year?
Right now, I just have Oregon. I'm actually going to hunt in Oregon. Actually, get to hunt with my brother a little bit, something I've never done. So that ought to be a kick. And then if I can get finished up at a decent, date in September, I've got a buddy that's got a Unit 10 tag in Arizona, and I will, if I've got some vacation time left and some days left, I'm going to go jump on a plane and fly to Flagstaff and go to Unit 10, think around with him,
Awesome.
chase some
That
chase some big guys around.
Yeah, that'll be fun. You'll love that. Your buddy seems like a really nice guy. I've talked to him on the phone, and seems like a really nice guy. Um, I think a great year to have a 10 tag. I think they've got 100 bull tags, which has come down from they had it. I want to say up to a couple hundred. It was getting kind of ridiculous, but should be fun. Now, I've got a couple questions before we get into, and you and I are good friends, so I can kind of peel into some of these questions. You obviously came down in Arizona in 2009 and shot that giant bull, and we had an unbelievable hunt there and killed that bull. I think he grossed 435 or something like that.
Yeah.
And that was, I think at the time, like your 46th elk with a bow, and now you've got 51 elk with your bow and arrow. And I'll just be honest. I know that when you shot that big bull, with social media and everything, just blossoming and what have you. I mean, there was some people that said, "Oh, I wish I was a rich guy like that." And one of the questions I want to ask you and get your opinion on is, like, I know you. You're a working class guy. You work hard just like everybody else, but you're not some rich guy. And
No,
what
no, I can show you my tax returns.
what do you say to people that instantly see success in someone, and maybe not specifically you? I'm just use that as an example. um, I guess people can make excuses for anything, and then if they haven't shot, 46 or 51 elk with a bow, they instantly want to say, "Oh, it's a rich man's deal." My question for you is like, isn't it all about discipline and decisions and priorities? And can you talk a little bit about, growing up and wanting to elk hunt and just putting yourselves in the elk woods in position to kill, 40, 50 elk with a bow?
Yeah, I mean, it's all about priorities in life, and making a commitment to it and sticking with it. I choose to spend my vacations elk hunting. I haven't much the last couple of years because of work. I kind of, found something I really enjoyed and focused in on it. And the elk hunting will come with next year. I'll probably be able to kick it back up really crazy like again. But I mean, it's just priorities. I always hear, oh, you can't do this, you can't do this. Well, if you make priorities of it all and um, just stick to it, you can go every year. You can hunt in Oregon every year. You can hunt in Idaho every year. You can hunt in Colorado every year. I mean, everything else is kind of a draw. Montana tag isn't that tough to draw, but I mean, there's places I hear a lot of people, oh, I can't get a permit. Oh, it'd be nice to just get this permit and that permit. Yeah, that's great. Trying to draw all these, you know, permits in great states like Arizona and Utah and Nevada stuff, but that's gotten to where it's just kind of like pie in the sky anymore. You can't really count on it. It's the popularity's exploded, and that's one thing I hear a lot is people, oh, I can't get a permit, I can't get a permit. You can still buy permits in a lot of places. As I think even in Idaho, you can still buy two. If there's leftover non-resident tags, you can buy, I think, a second one still. And it's just priorities and going out and getting it done, making a commitment to it, and you can go do it and not spend a lot of money. I think the biggest cost of it is tags and licenses and maybe fuel. I mean, I can eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for weeks on end. So, I mean, food's not a big deal. It's just prioritizing your spending money, prioritizing your time, and getting after it.
For sure. Like, what in looking back in the years of elk hunting that you've done, I mean, have you had years where you've harvested, 3, 4 bulls or 3, 4 elk in a year? Or, you know, looking back, what is the most elk you've killed in one year?
I think I'd have to really think about this, but 4 or 5 years I've killed three. Killing one in Oregon, killing one in Idaho, killing one in Montana, or maybe Oregon and two in Idaho when they started offering that second permit, or I don't know what, Oregon, Arizona, Idaho, stuff like that. I mean, it's spread all over, but I want to say it's 5 years I've killed three.
Gotcha. You mentioned Idaho, and I'm curious to ask you, who's spent a lot of time in Idaho, among other states. And I remember in the early years when I first met you in the 90s, you were telling me Idaho was pretty good, it had lots of elk, and then the wolves came in. What have you, with your own eyes, seen that those wolves have done? And curious, where it's at as far as a recovery, or is it, you know, tell me a little bit about the good old days and tell me what it's like now, and kind of compare the two.
I mean, the good old days, I mean, it was good. Be able to chase lots of nice 6 points, and they weren't giant bulls, but I mean, it was pretty easy to find a 280 to 310 type of bull to chase around darn near every day. And that's what we did. We chased bulls around like that. We shot lesser bulls. I think I ended up killing one there one year that was pretty close to like 335, which was kind of the top end of the bulls for what we were hunting there. And I haven't been in a few years, but following Fish and Game's trends and their stats, I'd say it's actually coming back.
Okay.
And this is a big if. If I'm done hunting this year and have some time and my buddy's done in Unit 10, my truck will be headed east to Idaho immediately.
Yeah. And you saw it though after the wolves had taken their toll, and I mean, was it a matter of you'd go into a basin where you'd hear, a handful of bulls bugling, and you'd show up and there wouldn't be any elk sign, and you wouldn't even hear a bull?
Yeah, that's what it became. It became that, and it was kind of a double-edged sword there when the change happened. Fish and Game, the unit I was hunting in, Fish and Game doubled the bull permits on the rifle part of it, issued 1,000 cow permits in the same year in that unit, and the rifle hunt started October 1, and that year it was kind of like the perfect storm. They had the wolves. They had a rifle season that started October 1 with 200 permits, and they had 8 inches of snow on the valley floors. Mm-hmm. I left on September 28th, and you could have killed multiple 300 bulls off of main roads, just driving around the elk route. It was cold. It was something I'd never seen in archery season, and I want to say, if I remember the stats right, they maintained their 75% kill on 65% 6-point bulls.
Wow. Wow. You talk about having an over-the-counter Oregon tag, and hunting with your brother, and you said you hadn't hunted with him. Looking at that, hunting with either a friend or your brother or a relative like that, do you guys have similar hunting styles, or do you think you do? And if you don't, like, how giving advice to people out there, like, how do you go into a hunt if you know that your hunting styles are different?
Boy, that's a tough one. I don't know really what his hunting styles are because I've never hunted with him. He's pretty successful at it when he puts his mind to it and has time. So I'm interested to kind of learn from him. I've done a lot of elk hunting, but I'm always still trying to learn. The way I look at it, nobody knows more than all of us combined. That's kind of something I, live my life through that motto. Be it hunting, fishing, life, work, whatever. Nobody knows more than all of us combined. So maybe he can teach me something. Maybe I can teach him something, and it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. Now, is he a caller like you, or what? I mean,
I would say maybe he's more of a caller than me. I still call a bunch, but in the early season, I tend to want to hunt more open country, so I can use my glass, especially if they're not bugling at all, because then you can do some spot and stalk, or maybe you can get in tight to them and then call them in. If you know where they're at, it's a little easier to go in and set up on them and cold call and expect a silent bull to show up, than just going out in the woods and sitting down on a stump and trying to call one in. Cold calling, that works, but I mean, if you can glass one up and put him to bed, that helps quite a bit.
so speaking about tactics there, you just mentioned glass them up and put them to bed. Are you saying that, you might not even actually pursue a bull in the morning, say opening morning, you might actually try and glass them up, see what they're doing, and then try and make your play that afternoon?
Yeah, I mean, I've killed more elk from 11 to 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and that's probably been my best time to kill elk. I like to get them to their beds, and then they're just not as apt to leave, walk away.
So is it a function of like you kind of have them kind of cornered, or you have them kind of, pinned down, so to speak, because you've watched them go into a piece of timber, so you know that they're there. And so what you're saying is you can move in close and make a play on them, and you know they're there, so they're either going to run or they're going to come.
Exactly, and if I know they're in that patch of trees, I have a lot more patience to sit there and monkey with them and mess with them if they're not too wound up. They'll usually always come check you out. They want to see the new kid on the block. And if you mess with them and keep the wind right, they'll show up even in the early season when they're not bugling.
Okay, so let's talk about that. So you've got a bull or some elk bedded in some timber. You watched them go in there, and then you slide in with the wind right. What are you going to start with? Like, what is your go-to call, or what is your go-to sequence, and how do you play that out with that elk?
If I know they're in a patch of trees and they're bedded and I've got the wind right, I'm going to try and get as close as I think I can to where I think they've stopped in that patch of timber and laid up, just trying to stay out of their eyesight. And I'm probably going to start with one single cow call, and I may sit there for 5 minutes, see if there's a response, see if a cow will respond, see if the bull will just get up out of his bed and walk in. And then maybe a few minutes later, give him a couple more cow calls, see what happens. If nothing happens, a lot of times I like to pick up a stick and start simulating raking on a tree.
Okay, so at that point you're just raking. You're not doing anything real dominant. You're just kind of raking like you're a bull. That's you've already signaled that, hey, there's a cow or two here, and now you're going to just be raking. You're not giving any sort of dominance to that elk. You're just kind of saying, hey, now I'm a bull in here with this. We're a group of elk that has moved in here close to you. And are you trying to strike their curiosity more than anything?
Yeah, I think early in the season that's what you're doing more so. The last part of August, the first few days of September, it's more of a curiosity thing. They want to see who the new guy is on the block. Maybe they'll sneak in and check you out. Every now and then, by about the fifth, they'll start to bugle some, and you can get a small bugle out of them. They know you're there. Maybe then I'll pick up my bugle and start messing with them. But early, it's usually just soft. A cow call here, a cow call there, raking a tree, maybe a light bugle. It's not, hey, I'm over here and I'm ready to fight everybody in the woods. It's let's see, how would I put this? More fly fishing than fishing with bait. More finesse.
A little finesse. I like
a
it.
little finesse.
So I had a podcast with Chris Rowe, and he was talking about his preference when he kind of starts a dialogue. After he's kind of going along the same lines as you, start with a little cow call and just see what's shaking. And this is something I've actually seen you do in the field, and so I'm just kind of curious what your thought process behind it. He kind of talks about wanting to start an interaction, if a bull bugles, he kind of wants to bugle back always just underneath that bull, meaning a little bit littler or sound a little bit littler. And I know that you can't sound big or little, but in other words, if he kind of just lets out just a medium kind of contact bugle, maybe you let out a medium, but his take is you kind of want to always let the bull that you've got bedded think that he's more dominant than you in the early season. Would you agree with that, or do you like to stand right on him?
Early season, I would agree with that. You don't really want to stand on 'em. I mean, it's just early season is more finesse. It comes down to finesse in that early part of the season to me. I think you've seen me hunt them a little bit early where it's finesse, and you've also seen me just, start stern with them later on when they're kind of starting to get wild and, stick my finger in there, so to say, and just keep winding them up.
Yeah, in that scenario where you've snuck into that timber, now you've cow called, now you've maybe thrown a bugle in there. Describe to the listeners with the wind where you're always expecting that bull to come or those elk to come. Uh, you know, you automatically, I know, I've watched you do it. You know pretty much where they're going to come, and why is that with the wind?
Um, I mean, they're going to try and catch you on the wind every time. I think that's one of their, main advantages. They're going to come and try and catch you on the wind. I'm going to try, if I think he's going to come, I may call and rake from a spot and then immediately move.
Slip
Just
down
that,
30 or 40 yards?
exactly. Try and play the angle of the wind a little different, cut back across the wind. If I think they're below me or, you know, three-quarters of the way below me at an angle, I'm going to slip uphill because they're going to probably try and get around above me if they can. And I'm trying to make sense of all this, but yeah,
No, I
I mean,
mean so in other words, when you start to rake or when you first hit your call, you're kind of looking for that spot where you think that they're gonna check my wind every time. So that means they're gonna come here.
right.
And okay, he bugled and he's bugled again. He's coming. You may slide, and this is where I think a lot of people, they get clammed up and they just get stuck in their spot, and the bull does everything they want him to do, but he comes right on the downwind side and wins them. Where I've
Right.
seen you and Casey when I've hunted with you guys, like you make a call, you make a whatever, raking, and you get a commitment, you slide like you're moving when they're moving. And some people
Yeah,
be like, well, I don't want them to see me, but I've seen you guys slide 30 yards just enough to angle on that wind, and there's your shot.
exactly. I mean, you've got to be aggressive. At the same time, maybe you're practicing some finesse. You also have to be aggressive with that finesse, if that makes any sense. I mean, I think too many people get caught up in, well, I'm right here, I've got some cover, I can shoot here, I can shoot there. And you've got to take into account which way the wind's blowing. And a lot of times just moving 15, 20 yards all of a sudden opens up, another 30 yards the bull can come without winding you. And, I mean, you can fool their ears, you can fool their eyes, but you can't fool their nose.
How does that scenario play out, talking about the wind and talking about that group of elk that you've glassed up and you've moved in on them? If you've got two people and say you're the caller and you've got a shooter, say your brother's going to shoot first, would you immediately, before you even engage, would you set him up, on the downwind side so that that they're going to try and slide your position to catch the wind, and he's already going to be, you know, on the downwind side, so that, in other words, sometimes it's going to make for a very close shot because they're going to walk right to where your brother's at.
Absolutely. Absolutely going to do something like that when I'm paired up with somebody. We're going to try and drag the bull sideways across them so they have nothing but a broadside shot. I mean, I run into a lot of times when I'm hunting by myself is you end up with a bull straight on or quartered at you pretty hard. If you can drag it sideways by somebody, by all means do that.
Yeah.
They
So
know exactly where you're at, and you can drag them right by somebody they don't know is there. The guy that's shooting is going to get a really good clean shot, more than likely.
Going into this Oregon season, what are you looking at as far as what will you shoot, and what are your expectations? Someone that's killed 51 elk with their bow and arrow, like what standards do you have, if any, and what's your expectation?
Um, since I have a little bit of time to hunt this year, um, just a decent 6 point would be wonderful. Whether he's 255 inches or 300 inches, just starting to look like a bull, starting to act like a bull. It's Oregon. It's the land of the small bulls. I'll shoot him.
Yeah.
I'm a realist too. I mean, you don't go hunting in a lot of this over the counter stuff where you can buy tags. I mean, it's not trophy hunting. It's just elk hunting and a good time.
Yeah. How much interaction, or I guess when does that season start, and how much interaction do you get, say, that first weekend or that first week?
I think we start in 3 weeks. We start the 26th of August, and go till the 24th of September. That first 5 or 6 days in August that it's open, I really don't expect much for interaction. Usually about September 1st, 2nd, I start to hear my first bugles of the season. So kind of the first few days is hunting silent type of elk. It's glassing, trying to stalk them, intercept them, and
Now, are they still
actually,
callable for you, Michael?
yeah, I think they are. I mean, I think they're curious. The bulls are kind of all off by themselves still, so they're pretty curious, and I think they're callable. I started messing around with tree stands on water holes that first part of the season, and I just haven't been in the right place at the right time yet. It seems to be deadly. Those things drink. They drink a lot.
So, in other words, if people are out there wondering what their early season tactics should be, you're saying that if they haven't already figured out wallows or places where these elk drink, you would highly recommend get up in a tree and just sit. Would you sit all day, or what would be your strategy?
Um, I'd sit the morning till about 9:30, maybe 10 o'clock, and be back in the tree about 3.
And then would you just be back at camp, or what would you do during the middle of the day?
Uh, get a nap.
Okay.
Um, maybe shoot my bow a little bit and try and leave them alone in the middle of the day. But once they get to rutting, that's my favorite time to hunt them.
Okay, so once they really get going, so say mid-September, you actually like hunting them once they've retreated to their beds and they're just cranked up during the day. You like to slide into their kind of the beds, which is unlike you always read and hear, don't get in their bedding zones. You would disagree with that?
I totally disagree with that. I'd prefer them to get to their beds. A lot of this interaction you have in the morning where it's a big chase and you think, oh, the bull's pushing his cows, the bull's pushing his cows. The bull's lazy. He's just following his cows. That's my thoughts. He's following his cows. He's following along. The cow knows where they're going to bed, and the bull will usually trail along and bugle the whole time. The satellites, if they've got satellites, will bugle the whole time. But he's just trailing along, following this cow that's going to wherever the whole herd's going to bed down. And if I can get them into their beds, let them get laid up, let them get comfortable, and get the wind right, you're going to usually get a play on them.
That's good stuff. Uh, let's talk about drawing on bulls and shooting bulls, and if you could describe to the listeners as many elk as you've killed, um, is there a perceived place that you know you might disagree with as far as shot placement, on a broadside elk, or would you say higher, lower? I mean, talk to me about exactly if you had the perfect shot where you said, dead bull, where would that be?
Come right up his leg line, 10 inches off the bottom of the chest, right up the back of his leg line.
In the
Lights
crease
out.
or off the
Yep,
crease?
right in the crease.
Right in the crease.
Bottom of the 10 ring on a Mackenzie target.
Okay, and have you seen more elk? Well, let me ask you this: the elk that you've seen die within eyesight, is that where you hit them?
Yeah.
Okay. Would you rather hit an elk low or high if they're broadside?
Low.
Well, let me back up. If you were going to miss high or low, would you rather hit them low or high, and why?
Um, Low just for a blood trail. High they just don't tend to bleed a lot, although there still is a lot of lung up there. If you can pop both their lungs, they're going to die usually.
What's your thought on if you shoot an elk and he wobbles out there 15 or 20 yards and he's still wobbling around and standing? What do you do?
He's got 2 or 3 more arrows in him or through him. I don't stop shooting. I mean, they become General Custer. If they'll stand there, I keep shooting.
And at some point, if are you shooting at anything you've got or are you picky? I mean, if he's standing butt to you and he's, you drilled him, but he's 30 yards away and he's butt to you, are you just sending him home the whole time?
Yep, I'm going to shoot him right in the butt.
Okay. And we've talked about this before on the podcast. The bull coming straight in, comes charging in, front on shot. Do you like it?
Inside of 20 yards, I'm going to do it.
And where are you going to aim?
6 inches up off the brisket, kind of where the mane, the long hair kind of transitions into short hair.
Mm-hmm. How many bulls have you seen shot like that, and how many are just dead on their feet?
I think I've seen, between myself and other people, like 11. And usually, when they whirl, you see this big spray of blood coming at them as they whirl around, and you just kind of chalk it up to, well, that one's dead. They tend to not go more than about 50 yards, and, Ray Charles could follow the blood trail.
Let's talk about your equipment this year. What are you shooting, and is it any different than the elk setup that you used for many years?
Yeah, it's a little different. I'm starting to have problems with my shoulders. I just set up a brand new Elite Option 7, and it's only 61 pounds. So, other than that, it's kind of the same arrows, ACC and, 61 pounds, and it'll be, either a shuttle T or a slick trick broadhead on the end of it.
3-blade?
Yep, 3 or 4 blade, it doesn't matter. I'm not a big fan of 2 blades just because I've seen some pretty poor blood trails from 2-blade broadheads.
Great penetration, but not good blood trail.
Exactly. I mean, they make a slit, they penetrate good, they kill them good, but it's a slit versus a hole.
Yeah. Is your shoulder issues related to archery or unrelated?
I think archery has something to do with it. When I was young and dumb, I shot a lot of 80, 85-pound bows, and, I don't think that's helped at all. I think some of it's from playing baseball all my younger life and swinging a hammer and things like that at work, but it's kind of wore out and sore, so we cut her down to 61 pounds. I think should be able to kill him. I mean, I tend not to shoot real far. I think if I take all my elk, I've kind of kept stats on it, and over time, I think my average shot is like 28.3 yards.
Wow. So this year, if you harvest a bull in Oregon, that'll make number 52. How old are you?
I'll be 50 in October.
50 in October. That's pretty amazing. Do you have any places that you want to hunt elk that you haven't?
Yeah, I want to hunt in New Mexico. I just have never drawn a tag in New Mexico yet. I'd like to hunt in New Mexico. I'd like to kill a bull in New Mexico. And then I will have killed one in every state in the West outside of California.
That's pretty neat.
Just something different, I mean, be able to say, hey, I killed one on all these states, and someday I'll get to New Mexico and knock that one off the list too.
How much of it for you? I mean, I know you like fishing for salmon. I know you like duck hunting. I know you like blacktails. You've got a lot of stuff you like doing. But how much for you is elk hunting the interaction and the calling aspect, or how much of it is just you love elk hunting itself?
I think a lot of it's just the interaction, the calling them in, I feel the calling a bull in or calling a cow in. I mean, it's the purest form of trickery that there is. Be it calling elk, rattling blacktails in, calling ducks, catching fish on artificial lures or flies. It's just a form of trickery, and it's always fun to say you've tricked something into your ruse that you have going on.
Yeah, and but you're not opposed to calling in a bull silent and whacking them, right?
Oh, not at all. He doesn't have to come screaming in. I mean, if can sneak up on one and kill him, great. If one of these days I'm going to shoot one on a water hole out of a tree stand, great. I try and be multi-dimensional and not get locked into one style, one way.
Do you ever see yourself hunting, just specifically hunting, having tags that you hunt bulls, but being pumped because you've got cow tags and just whacking cows too?
Um, no, I've never had. Well, some of the tags have had, you could shoot any elk, but um, I try and leave the lady elk in the woods for the other folks to enjoy. Um,
So
just
as long
just
as
not my thing. I'm not. If I could have a cow tag to go with my bull tag in Oregon, yeah, I'd dump a cow in a heartbeat. They're good to eat.
Yeah. So in other words, you like hunting bulls, but if you could have a bull and a cow tag, you'd whack them both.
Absolutely.
Would you've caught a lot of cows in. Is there anything that you would do different if you specifically had a cow tag across the West and you were trying to focus on cow elk? Would there be any changes in your tactics?
No, they wouldn't. You'd be surprised in the early season when you do get in around a herd like that sometimes the first elk to show up when you're cold calling the elk is a cow. I mean, they're sometimes just as curious as the bulls. So I wouldn't change a thing.
When you look back at, 51 elk, what are some of your favorite hunts or favorite stories that go along with those hunts? Do you have a couple that just, you know, jump out at you, whether it be whatever, something with the hunt that made them, a couple of them a little more special than the others?
Uh, I killed a bull in Idaho one year by myself, and I think it was about 2000. Yeah, I was hunting in a foot of snow. It was cold. I'd been hunting for 10 days by myself. The bugling was really good, but it was just one of those hunts that I screwed more elk up than you could imagine. Just the wind got me, this got me, that got me, and I was down to running out of time, and I was mentally beat, and called the bull in and shot over his back by a foot at 30 yards. I don't know how I managed to do that, but um, did that and was able to call him back in and kill him. And, it was kind of a cool deal. It was, like I say, in the snow. One of the few I have pictures of was, I'm in a foot of snow with an elk during archery season. And, and he was a nice 6 point. That was pretty cool. And I'd say another one would be killing that big bull with you, because you kind of know. I mean, we could go on for 3 or 4 hours trying to tell that whole story in its entirety. It was comedy, and we had a great time with it.
Yeah.
We had lots of things go wrong on that hunt, and, we just laughed it off and kept grinding away.
Yeah,
And look what happened.
don't you think though that, I mean, when you really look back at all your hunts, like, and I'm the same way, there's so many things that go wrong before things go right. I mean, most hunts, unless you're done the first day, uh, you just people see the pictures, people see the videos, they see the things and they think that, oh, it's just easy. But don't you think most of them are a struggle until it happens and then you're like, wow, that really, the tide just changed there.
Yeah, and a lot of times, you're grinding on it, you're struggling, you're grinding on it, you're struggling. Oh, this is terrible, this is terrible, this is terrible. Uh-oh, I just killed one. And it
Yeah.
changes that fast so many times that, you're grinding on it, nothing's working, and then you're over. It's done. You've just shot one. He's running off with an arrow shot through his lungs, and it's like, wow, how did that happen? How did it happen so fast? You just, got to keep a good mental outlook and keep grinding away at it. It's not like the movies.
It's not like the movies. I want to take a quick second here to thank the sponsors of the podcast. I want to thank Go Hunt Insider, and I want to encourage the listeners to check them out. And if you sign up for a Go Hunt Insider membership, make sure to use the J Scott promo code. And if you do that, you're going to get a $50 Go Hunt Gear Shop a store credit. And I don't know, Michael, if you've used Go Hunt, but it's a phenomenal resource to be able to research all the western states and be able to look at the draw odds and the harvest statistics. and they've just recently opened up a gear shop. They're trying to get gear that you know hardcore hunters use, and they're trying to make it available right through the website. And you get that $50 store credit if you sign up using the JScott promo code. And a bunch of people have emailed me over the last couple years telling me how much they like that GoHunt.com insider. And I want to thank them for their sponsorship. I want to thank Kuyu Ultralight Hunting. Make sure you guys go check out the Kuyu Mobile Showroom. The mobile showroom right now is going to be in Kansas City, Missouri, then Oklahoma City, Dallas, Houston, Lubbock, Albuquerque, Grand Junction, Colorado, September 21st through the 23rd, Salt Lake, Cedar City, and a bunch more cities after that. You can go on kuyu.com and check out where the mobile showroom is at. At that mobile showroom, you can get a chance to try on and see exactly what size you are in the boots, the pack, all the base layers, the pants. Every piece of gear that Kuyu makes is on that trailer in every size. So I want to thank Kuyu Ultralight Hunting for their sponsorship of this podcast. Also, the Outdoorsmans, Cody Nelson, whom you know, Michael, 1-800-291-8065 or on outdoorsmans.com. They are the optics authority. They also make great backpacks, tripods, and a bunch of other hunting gear. Cody Nelson and his crew, if you give them a call, use the JScott promo code, you're going to get a 10% discount. And then phonescope.com, use the JScott16 promo code. You're going to get a 10% discount there at Phonescope. Michael, talking about hunting gear, things have changed since you last, or since you started. What do you think has been one of the biggest advances in either technology or gear or what have you since the days when you first started elk hunting?
Man, a little bit of everything. Optics. I mean, the optics nowadays are phenomenal. The clothing, that's probably where it's changed the most, is the clothing. I mean, for years it was, cotton clothes, military camo, things like that. But the clothes have come a long ways. The optics have come a long ways. The bows have come a fair distance. So it's kind of all across the board. I mean, it seems like some of this stuff's changing so fast that I can't even keep up with it. And honestly, the last couple of years I've kind of had my head wrapped up into work, so I'm, not as up on top of it as I could be at this point. But number one would be the clothes, followed by optics, followed by the archery equipment to me.
Would you consider yourself still totally old school in your mind? Like, I mean, have you fully wrapped your game around all the technological advances, or are you still kind of just doing it how you've always done it?
I'm still more or less old school, doing it, kind of how I've always done it. I now own a GPS. Don't really know how it works. I had it 2 years ago, so I had a Nevada tag, and it was basically I had a chip in it so I could stay out of Idaho. And it worked pretty good. I mean, I was surprised what you could do with it. But still, I'm kind of old school. You know me. I've got a phone. You can call me. You can text me if you get my phone number. I don't have, any of the social media stuff, nor do I want any of it. But yeah, I'm kind of old school.
You talk about old school. Don't you think there's some things that just from callings, I've seen the way you hunt, and you hunt really hard, and you hunt, you get after it, and you stay persistent, and you keep a good attitude even when we blow elk out, we get too aggressive and bump them, but there's that hardcore tenacity. Would you say that is one of the single biggest factors for you, harvesting 51 elk with a bow?
Never say die. Hunt till the last hour of the last day.
Yeah.
I just don't quit. It can be full moon. It can be hot. It can, they're not bugling this, that, or the other thing. Oh, there went that one running off with my arrow in it. It's over.
Yeah. What do you say to the guys like, I think we've talked about on other podcasts, Danny Moore, who, he doesn't even carry cow call, he just bugles. do you think that the bugling, being a good bugler, you're a great bugler, and obviously he's a great bugler, and there's others that are great buglers. Do you think that those tactics work in every state, or do you think there's areas where maybe being a better cow caller is more beneficial than being a great bugler?
Uh, no, I think you need to. If you a guy can bugle good, it's still really deadly. In fact, in the last few years, I've kind of seen it. I think make a full circle around again to where bugling's really good because people thought they couldn't call them with a bugle for a long time. It was entrenched in their brain. Oh, you need to use your hoochie mama or whatever and cow call, cow call, cow call. That's great, but I find that the bugle's starting to work again really good on this public land stuff, and I think we've kind of come full circle that people have forgot it.
You think it's one of those things that I think one of the reasons sometimes bugling doesn't work as good is because there's a lot of people trying to bugle that don't really sound good. The good buglers that I've heard, it works good because they sound good. How much effectiveness do you think is directly related to sounding like a bull elk?
Well, a good chunk of it is sounding like a bull elk, but then think back on the other hand, how many terrible sounding bulls you've heard in the woods. I've heard a fair amount of them in my lifetime. I think more of it has to do with timing and cadence.
Good point.
The guys that buy the call and they, go doo-doo, bulls don't sound like that. I mean,
Yeah.
try and sound like a bull. Try not and blow it like a musical instrument, and I think you'll be a lot better off. Put a little passion, put a little aggression into it. I think that.
Don't you think too, though, that like part of education, some of the call manufacturers, the guys read on the back of the package and, make this sound and that sound. Don't you think go on YouTube and type in bugling bull elk and like try and listen to as many bulls bugle as you can
Right.
and make your bugle sound like that.
Ab-
Not like the videos from 20 years ago when a guy's trying to get his bugle and show you how to do it. Like try and mimic, play in your earphones, have a button that you push play and bulls are bugling in your earphones and and then you're bugling trying to mimic that bull. I think people would get a lot better if they would, use that tactic.
Absolutely. Listen to the bulls, and I guess if you're going to pull stuff up on YouTube and try and learn too, pull anything up that Corey Jacobson does. I mean, the guy's phenomenal. He sounds like a bull elk. I'd hunt him any day of the week. I mean, he's good. Try and mimic it. I mean, we can't all be like that. He's won how many world titles? I mean, but just that's a good place to learn. People like that can really call well, and never stop learning, never stop trying. Try to get better all the time.
Are there any calls specifically that you have been using over the last couple of years, or are you still using the same calls, or what have you found that works for you?
Still using the same bugle at Deep Timber Sounds. It's made by a guy here in Oregon. It's tough to learn how to blow, but if you can learn how to blow it, it sounds really good. Diaphragms, I think. What have I got? I just got some brand new ones from Corey Jacobson in the mail, some trial test things here yesterday. I haven't even got them out to try them, but I mean, I've used his dad's stuff quite a bit. I've used some of Chappell's stuff. I just kind of like a narrower mouthpiece and, on a frame, on a diaphragm, because if it's too wide, I go to gagging on them. But, I mean, any of the stuff, if it's got Rocky Jacobson's name or Corey Jacobson's name on it, they're good calls.
Yeah, they make good calls for sure. Let me think. So if you go down to Unit 10 with your buddy, you haven't been to Unit 10, but what is your strategy that you envision going down when you get there as far as, will you just treat it like any Arizona hunt you've been on and just dive in the middle of them and rip it up?
Start turning them over.
Meaning looking and trying to
Yeah,
call
I
as
mean,
many bulls as you
that's
can?
a function. I know what he wants to shoot on this hunt. It doesn't have to be the biggest bull in the state of Arizona, but it'll be a nicer bull, and you just got to go. I mean, anytime you go on a hunt like that where you're targeting a bigger bull, I mean, you just need to start turning them over.
How hard do you think it is for someone, say, like your buddy or someone, from the Northwest that maybe doesn't see the quality that he might see in Arizona and a 330 comes running in? How hard is it, and you've been in that position, how hard is it to, you know, come to Arizona where it's really, really good and not shoot and be done on the first day?
It's really, really tough when you come from a place that most of the bulls here killed are 5 points, small 6 points, things like that. A lot of guys are just happy to kill a bull in Oregon, and yet you draw a permit like that, and all of a sudden you're turning bulls down that they could be bigger than anything you ever killed in your life, and you're just, it's kind of baffling at first. It can be frustrating even. If you're trying to kill a bigger bull and, turning down 320, 330, 340 bulls, and it's like, oh, wow, why couldn't I find this thing at home? But it's just a whole different mindset.
So do you almost just try and enjoy each moment and just tell yourself, listen, if I shoot it, this whole hunt's over and I'm done? And so you just try and wait till something comes in that's, extra special, and then say, okay, that one's worth shooting?
Yeah, it's kind of that way. What I've seen in my limited experiences in Arizona, go hunt the first 10 or 11 days of the season or hold out for a really nice bull. And usually there's enough bulls around that if you allow yourself 3 or 4 days at the very end of the season, you can let your expectations for a bull slide if you just want to shoot a bull to take home. Or you can grind it out to the very end if you want to eat tag soup. But me, I prefer to eat elk than tag soup. So I'm going to shoot one right at the end of the season. Right at the very end, my expectations and standards will drop.
You've hunted some of Arizona's great units, and then you've hunted some of Arizona's mid-tier units. If you're talking to people that haven't hunted in Arizona, how do you explain some of those mid-tier units to them as far as action? I mean, is it still quite a bit better than some of the other action in some of those other states?
Absolutely. It's good hunting. It's really good hunting. I don't know why they call it mid-tier or whatever they want to call it.
Because you got snobs like me.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, when you just hang out in Unit 9 all the time in places like that, yeah, it's terrible, but I'll take some of their, low-quality units over hunting my general Oregon tag every year.
And is it because their elk are more interactive and there's less people, or it's just easier to get around country? You can move around, you can hear elk. Yeah, I mean, compare the people. Is there more people up where you hunt, or in a middle unit in Arizona?
There's way more people up here. I think we have close to 40,000 archery elk hunters in the state of Oregon, turned loose for that whole month of season when it's open. And down there, the tags are limited. Yeah, you've got the factor, the buddy factor. You got to take into account how many permits there are for a unit, and even if there's only 100, you got to figure there's 200, 250 people there anyways. But some of what they call mid-tier, low-tier units down there, all the bull has to do is walk across the 2-lane highway, and he just walked out of one of the best units in the state, and he's in one of the worst units in the state. It happens all the time.
Yeah, for sure. That's good stuff. I know we're talking about elk, but I know blacktail season is always in the back of your mind. Are you going to be able to put some time into blacktails this year? And if so, how is it looking up there for you?
I think it's going to be good. Of course, it'll just kind of come down to the weather we get during season, whether we get a bunch of snow. But I didn't have a very good season last year, so I'm looking for redemption this year. And I'll actually have some time off to hunt, so that'll be a first. But,
good.
I love to chase blacktail deer, and, I'm going to give them a good week and a half, 2 weeks this fall.
Good. What about your fishing? Has it been a good season fishing, or where are you at with that?
It was a pretty lackluster spring. I mean, we had some decent fishing, but the runs weren't real great this year. We had great water conditions, just poor returns. We've had, the baby salmon on their out migration have hit an ocean the last 3 years that the nutrients haven't been there, and they've kind of starved off. Water's been warmer than normal in the ocean.
Do you think that's just a cycle, or
Yeah,
something that's?
it's a total cycle deal. We'll see it good again. My guess is in about 4 years.
Gotcha. Did you know Dar and I are going to Alaska here? I guess we leave Friday for a mountain goat.
No, I didn't. Who are you going with?
Yeah, Frank.
You guys are in for
Frank Sanders.
you're in for an adventure.
Oh yeah, we're yeah, we've been training all summer, and Dar's taking his bow, I'm taking a rifle, and we're going with Frank Sanders, and we drew the tags, back when it was time to put in for, we hadn't applied for Alaska, and Frank's like, yeah, I think it's only like a 8 or 10% chance to draw, and so we put in, and we both drew, and first year.
That's awesome.
and, which is cool, and we're going with a guide of Frank's, and we're flying in float plane and then backpack hunt, and yeah, it should be fun. Have you hunted goats?
I have not. It's something I'd like to do at some point, but I have not done it.
Yeah, we're kind of excited. So we've been training and packing gear and buying food and trying to figure everything out, and it should be a good time. The for probably the last week, the forecast there in Alaska, kind of in the area where we're hunting, the best days are 50% chance of showers, and I've been watching 70, 80, 90% chance of rain, and now we're getting closer where the first 2 days of the hunt look like they're only 30% chance of rain, so it seems like a dry spell, which is awesome.
That'll be good.
Everyone I've talked to said it's just wetter and wet, but you're going to take 2 desert rats up there. We'll probably drown up there.
Yeah, you guys are going to, well, I don't know if you're going to drown. Maybe you're just going to swell up like a sponge. You get that water on you, dry guys.
Yeah, we won't even know. I mean, you know how we are. If it gets below 60 in Arizona, I'm in a full parka. But should be a fun hunt. I know Dar's really excited to go, and he's taking his bow, and I'm gonna bat clean up with the rifle, and so it should be.
That'll be a good time. Be a real good time.
Yeah, and then Dar's got an elk tag himself. I don't know if
I did not.
He's got an elk tag in a unit where you shot a giant.
Oh no. Oh no, I have a feeling I know where he's going hunting.
Yeah, he's excited for that, and I think he's going to do well. So it should be a good year.
No kidding. That'll be awesome.
Yeah. So, well, it's been awesome talking to you. Always love hearing, a guy with a lot of experience like yourself, and you got any last final words to guys that are getting ready for their own elk hunts, and someone that shot 51 with the bow? Any final thoughts or advice?
Don't give up. Just keep grinding it out. Good things happen to those that stay in the field and grind it out.
I think that's well said and good advice. It's been great having you on, buddy. I wish you the best. Look forward to seeing a picture of number 52. I'm fortunate usually to get a text pretty shortly after you kill an elk, and I'm grateful for that and grateful for your friendship, and look forward to the next time we can get out there and hunt around, and yeah, fun stuff. I'm glad you're doing good with work, and look forward to getting out in the field again with you one of these days.
Yeah, we're gonna have to shoot a whitetail with a Coues whitetail with a bow is what we got to do. that's next on the bucket list.
Yep, and maybe throw some tortillas at each other.
That'd be even better. Viva Mexico.
Right on, buddy. Sounds good. Well, God bless. I'll catch you later.
Good talking to you, Jay.